Hey friend, welcome back to the Care Collective podcast. I'm Michaela Cluxton, and this is a space for caregivers and the people who love them, where we talk about the real, behind-the-scenes emotional load of caregiving and how to stay grounded in the middle of it. Today we're talking about caregiver burnout, the kind that builds slowly and sometimes the kind that hits all at once when life changes overnight. Because caregiving isn't just a physical task, it's the constant decision-making, the worry, the grief, the mental load, and the way your nervous system never fully gets to exhale. And here's the part people don't say enough. You can love someone deeply and still feel completely depleted. So today I am joined by Kevin, co-owner of ENHDME.com, a family caregiving medical distributor and someone with a long background in caregiver education. Kevin has also lived this personally as a family caregiver, and he brings such a grounded perspective on what burnout actually looks like in real life. From sleep deprivation to anxiety to the emotional side of falls and dementia care to why self-care isn't selfish is more than just a nice phrase. In this conversation, we talk about what caregivers actually need. Not generic advice, but real support. That means prevention, practical tools, mental health breaks, and a community that just helps you feel less alone. Because the goal isn't just getting through caregiving, it's making sure that you don't disappear in the process. So alright, let's get into it.
Okay, well, I guess we will kick it off and get started. So welcome to the podcast, Kevin. I'm so glad to be able to have you today because every conversation has just been so fun to hear about your story and things that you are working on. And so I guess just to start, go ahead and take a moment to introduce yourself, things that you're working on right now, just so people can get to know you.
Hi. Well, my name is Kevin Lambing, and I am the co-owner of ENHDME.com, which is a home care. We're a family caregiving medical distributor for people that need at-home care needs like wheelchairs and beds and incontinence items. It's really been our passion. But my background is in caregiver education. I was with the Institute for Professional Care Education doing the CEUs for nurses and caregivers. And it's always been like I've always been around caregiving my entire career. And it's just been something that has really, it's just been a passion of mine because I was a family care provider to my mom until she passed away. And I just love this realm. I just feel blessed because I'm just around so many amazing people that are all like, I call it the heart of the caregiver. People that are full of empathy and they're doing one of the hardest jobs that you could possibly ever do. And I just want to, myself and my partner, her name is Val, we're just committed to helping people keep their loved ones in their home as long as possible. So that's basically
Yeah. Well, and I can tell you something I meant to mention too is I literally just this week sent somebody your guide on your website that you created for helping people because it came up in a conversation that they mentioned, oh yeah, this just happened, and I sent it over to them and they're like, wow, yeah, this is perfect because my mom has been stressed out and doesn't even know what she should have, in these stressful situations. And so I think, that's something that I have just learned is that from caregivers, they're such giving people that want to share everything that they know because these are the situations you only learn by experience, right? There's not a handbook in any of these things.
You're absolutely right. And that's one of myself and Val, we sat down and we put together a checklist. It's on the website. It's completely free. And basically all of my years in this business, like I've been dealing with discharge planners and social workers and doctors trying to find the game plan of like a lot of people, they don't know what to do with mom and dad after they get discharged. So mom maybe had a fall or she had a hip replaced and you go, okay, that happened on Tuesday. She comes home 2 weeks later from the hospital, but you like, what do I do? You're still in the same house that she had the fall in. So we put together a free list of like everything from grab bars to safety monitors to fall pads. It's some of the simplest things. Like I'm a huge advocate, not an advocate. I don't want it to happen, but I'm an advocate for helping people understand fall prevention. Fall prevention is a huge passion of mine. I have seen some horrific things in my days in this business. So having those things in the home to help people not have falls is super important to us. We lose over 30,000 seniors a year to falls. I mean, like pass away. And the ones that don't pass away, that's just the people that die from falls. The people that have cognitive issues afterwards, like from a traumatic brain injury or, it can change your life overnight.
Yeah. Yeah, not to mention the emotional side. That's mostly what I have seen having been around people that have fallen, is just how nervous they get afterwards to even feel confident to keep living in their house. And every time it's just, "Oh, this is I can't walk this way because that's what happened last time," or something, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's what's good about grab bars, whatever it is, if it helps them feel more confident and teaching somebody how those things operate, right? Anyway, so I think people underestimate how much education is needed around these kind of topics, because they absolutely exist and there's lots of resources to help people in these situations, but knowing the right way to go about it, can feel overwhelming.
I always tell people we don't think about these things until we have to, right?
Mhm.
I always use the story of like you're having breakfast with mom on Monday, everything is great. But that Wednesday, she has a fall, and your entire life changes overnight. And you're like, "What do I do? Where do I go?" And it. That's another reason that one of the things I do is I write stories about caregivers. Is I want to let people know that they're not alone, because at the end of the day, at some point, I always love the Rosalind Carter quote that you're either going to be one or you're going to need one, a caregiver in your life, and we don't think about that. Like I just feel like people put it off to the last moment, and that's a recipe for disaster. So being able to have those things in place, having people that you can lean on. I'm doing an interview. I'm super excited in about a week, and I'll give you. I can't wait to share it with you, Michaela, because this is your wheelhouse too. She's a neurosurgeon and her mom has dementia and she's stressed out. Well, imagine a Joe Schmo off the street who has no medical training whatsoever. All of a sudden, your mom or dad gets diagnosed with dementia. This doctor, this world renowned doctor, is stressed out. What do you think a normal person is going? They're like frazzled. Like, what do I do? And the beauty of our community is the fact that like it takes a village. There's going to be someone, and that's the thing. Like me and Val, our passion is like I have seen so many different things in all of my years in this business that there's really nothing that's going to surprise me. And I can go into my data bank and go, well, this will work, or this will work. I mean, it's not always a one size fits all, but you can kind of guide a family in the right direction to just like one of the biggest things, and I know we're going to get into this, is caregiver burnout.
Yeah.
Like just having the stressors. People don't think about, like, if you're a parent, right? When you first bring a kid home, you're so excited, and you've got this little bundle of joy, and they're up all day, and you're up with them because you're taking care of them. And then you put them in the crib and you're like, okay, now it's time for some adult time. I'm going to go watch some TV. I'm going to go eat some dinner. You think everything's great. You're enjoying yourself. The moment you're ready for bed, they're back up again.
Yep.
Like it's a vicious cycle. And it's, again, it goes to my diaper to diaper theory. We start out that way. We end up that way.
Right.
You're working a full-time job, right? You know, and then you come home and you're taking care of your loved one, feeding
Mhm.
them, doing all of these things. You get them into bed, you finally get a few moments of solace, and they're up. I was just watching a video the other day, and a lady just literally, I wrote her and I sent out a package to her house because
Yeah.
they're her father had a horrendous fall. He has dementia, two black eyes, and she's literally on tape saying, "I haven't slept all night." Like now she doesn't want to go to bed because she's scared because he's getting up in the middle of the night, and they don't know. So I gave them a dementia monitor so that they can get some rest, because if you hear the beep go off, then dad's getting up out of his bed.
No, and while you were talking, I was just thinking, I think what makes it so difficult is that you're pairing the physical needs with the emotional side of everything, right? So while you're trying to think about XYZ thing that mom needs, I also need this. And then you throw in sandwich caregivers too, right? Where maybe they're also still caring for their own children. So add another element. You're still grieving this person, you're grieving all the relationship that you had or that you wished you had. Maybe it's not even that you had a perfect relationship, right? And feeling like the opportunity has gone out the window. And so I think that's what makes it so difficult for people, is it's the the physical side, and then that emotional side is what leads to the burnout. And I am a big believer in how much our brains affect, and our mental health affects our physical health and the other things that go on. And so I think that kind of lends itself to our whole caregiver burnout conversation that we want to have, and kind of segues to that very naturally, is that I think people don't realize how many of these almost checklist things you need to get in place to safeguard yourself to make sure you're going to be in your best shape possible to take care of other people in your life.
Right. I mean, and the credo is self-care is not selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it. I've lived it. I've been there. I've done that. And I know that there are times when, to this day, I think about things that I did as a caregiver to my mother that I wish I could go back and fix. And it's hard. I literally lost my mom the day before Mother's Day, which is brutal. When you leave, it's like when you lose someone on a holiday, especially Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And it plays havoc. And that's why I'm so impassioned dealing with these caregivers, because I've walked in their shoes and I know what they're going through. And if there's any way that, any one of us in our group, we do have a really cool group. You should see our Instagram group. It's so cool. I just love the fact that there is a bunch of people that we're all dedicated to wanting to better the lives of others, because that's what this is all about. You know what I mean? If we can alleviate the stress, it makes me feel better knowing that not to go off on a tangent, or I'm sorry, that's the way my brain works.
Go for it.
I got a message yesterday. I wrote a story, and I can't wait till she sees this. It's a Stella and a Stella. It's a mother and daughter. And I wrote a story about them. She is a realtor down in Florida. She's taking care of her mom who has dementia, and she's a full-time caregiver. And I'm a nerd. I call myself the home care nerd. So I'm always trying to look. I look at like, what's today? Today is chocolate cake day or whatever. The other day, it was, and I know this is really weird. It was packing bubble day. There's a day for that. There's literally a day for that. So I know because I've used it with patients. Popping bubbles are used in senior care for people to take away anxiety, to keep hand-eye mobility. They actually have fall prevention suits that are made out of bubble wrap. And I made this post, and I get an alert on my phone yesterday, and it's from Estella, and it's a picture of her mom popping bubbles, right? And I was like, that's what this is all about. I know it might sound really silly and I'm emotional, but I know that this woman works around the clock as a realtor. She's taking care of her mom, and like something that I shared. And again, it has nothing to do with me. Like I'm not trying to take credit or clout or not. I'm just happy that I was a conduit to help a family caregiver that is struggling, but she loves her mom so much. And I think that's why I love this community. I love the fact that we have this brain trust, this wealth of knowledge that when we share it with others, we uplift them and we can help alleviate some of that caregiver stress. Because I'm telling you, she then took it and she makes a post saying, if your loved one has dementia, this simple thing could make you, and I just felt like something positive went out into the universe. So I wanted to share that. I'm sorry. I get excited. I am a nerd.
Yeah. No, I think that's so fun. And that's honestly, if you're listening to this and, have a loved one with dementia, go try bubble wrap, because that sounds like a great thing. I mean, honestly, that could even be a good activity if you're trying to get your kids to play with grandma or grandpa. I'm sure that could be a joint activity for everyone to kind of, play along. Honestly, I could deal with they make those stress reliever, the reusable ones now, the little poppets, the plastic.
I love it. I love that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, and it's just cool to see when it's things that you see helping other people. And I think especially, being in a place where people will listen to you and take advice when you have seen it work for so many other people. I think that's part of what comes from the joy of seeing it impact other people positively, is because you see that it does that and you're like, please do this. I want to help you. I think this will really make a difference in your life, right? And that kind of trust is what's needed, especially in these long-term caregiving situations, right, is you need to have trust with that person. And it goes both ways. We were just debating in our group, and the group you keep referencing too, if you're first time listening to this and have no clue what we're talking about, we've got a great networking group of just professionals of all sorts of different backgrounds. We have some death doulas in the group. We have some certified senior advisors in the group. Just lots of different people that are truly in the room for the right reasons. And we're also working on expanding to people that provide more childcare related things too, because I think that there's things that we can all learn across the board from each other just in the world of care. But anyways, it's just been super fun to see how many people are so dedicated to helping others and really want to just jump in, because I think that's one thing I have noticed that I'd be curious to hear. I know this is a tangent we didn't talk about, but just the number of groups I've run across, even in just the past couple of weeks, that are definitely not in it for the right reasons. And I see so many people, that'll tell me, oh, wait, I had a bad experience with this nursing home taking care of my grandma, and I really basically could have a lawyer step in and advocate for some, elder abuse related things that happened. And, I think there's plenty of things. It was in Minnesota, right, where they had a whole fake daycare that existed that wasn't even real and was getting all of this money, even though there's a childcare shortage, and we do not have enough childcare systems to even support what we have, right? What I guess the point that I would like to make with all of this, not trying to bring up bad things, but just saying that it's refreshing to see so many people doing good, when I think that there's a lot of people that get skeptical and get hurt by things in the system. So to still have hope that there's people that are trying to actively change that and make it better is really inspiring for me.
Well, I think in life, everyone gets jaded, right?
Of course.
And when there's articles written about our industry every day about how many billions of dollars the senior care industry, there's always going to be people that are going to have nefarious reasonings to come in. And trust me, I've seen it. I've seen it from bad caregivers to bad facilities to bad SNFs to bad adult family homes, bad home care agencies. I've seen them. I won't work with them, and I'll report them in a heartbeat, just like I would report somebody to CPS, because I take that real serious. I had a situation this year where I had to write an article, again, because of the caregiver shortage, a place out in Brooklyn called Seagate, and a woman was left alone. She didn't have a caregiver. Sitting next to her was another patient, wasn't watched. She got up out of her wheelchair, took off the leg extension, and unfortunately, she took the life of the other patient. She's not going to go to jail because they both had dementia, but they should have never been left alone. So that's another reason that I'm such a huge proponent of home care. It's not that I don't do business with assisted livings.
Sure.
I feel like when you're in a home setting, you have less capabilities for accidents to happen, because these places that have all of these different exits, you've got a massive building with 200-300 people with maybe 4 caregivers for that amount of people. By the time you get done changing 4 people, you have to start at the beginning again. And there is it's just not a good situation. But anyways, sorry, I'll go off on a tangent, because elder abuse and child abuse is it just doesn't sit well with me. That's why I'm so passionate about uplifting our caregivers, because they do such a hard job, and we have to make sure that we keep the best of the best amongst us, because a lot of times a lot of places will just hire to fill a body, and you can't do that, especially when you're dealing in a community of people that are cognitively declined, that can't speak, that can't talk, that can't explain what's going on.
In that aspect, I know the continuity and keeping things consistent is really important. And so if you're going to switch out people, that also is not good for them mentally, right? Like, they need consistency, even in just, right, that are going to take care of them. So, that's the worst thing that could happen for them. I know, and I will just briefly say all of these kind of things because I want to focus on giving people hope and resources and stuff. One of the initial reasons why I even dove into, this industry and became so passionate about it was just learning about the loneliness in these care homes, and seeing how the likelihood of somebody passing away within a year time span increases significantly once they are in a nursing home. And it wasn't even, they tried to measure, and they're like, is it because of their health? Are we just putting sicker people, in nursing homes? And it was because of the loneliness and the social aspect, more so than anything else, right? And so, being able to see that, and again, we're not trying to say nursing homes are bad if that's what you're currently going through for your loved one. I'm sure there's a million reasons why you absolutely need to do that. But what the takeaway I get from that is how much support caregivers need so that whether mom is in a nursing home, whether she's at home, you're still able to show up emotionally for them just as much as the physical needs are already taken care of, right? Because that loneliness aspect is what makes these situations harder, whether it's the caregiver feeling isolation in the experience. Sometimes people will describe to me feeling isolated from friends and family that don't understand, sometimes even their own family especially, that aren't showing up and helping to take care of people. So I'd love to get your take on, how do we prevent these kind of situations? How do we help, if somebody's at the beginning of their caregiver journey, would that advice you give them be different from somebody who's in the thick of it and is feeling the stress? Or have you noticed kind of themes that are important to keep in mind?
I think the key thing is in this is it's snowflakes. Everybody's different. I think a lot of times, we see the 10,000-foot view, but we don't know the family dynamic. And I try to always put myself in the shoes because unfortunately, there are some family caregivers out there that may have had a horrible childhood. Imagine having a horrible childhood, but you're still a good person. But now you're tasked with taking care of mom and dad. They might have cognitive decline where they don't even remember who you are, but now you have all of those past feelings and sadness and angst pent up. And it's like I try to support those people. I've got a person that I deal with who is a caregiver to both mom and dad who both have dementia, and she's at her wit's end. I just feel like every case is different. I think that just the biggest thing that anybody can do is just encourage them, or give them a break. Respite care is so important. Letting someone go for a walk for an hour a day, or maybe going over and cooking dinner for them, getting them a gift card, a mani-pedi, something just for them, and making them, and just not forcing them, but basically forcing them, just saying, look, you need a break, get out of the house. It's the family dynamic is tough in home care. Because I don't want to be bossy with them because I've seen it all.
Oh yeah.
But it's hard. It's really it's again, it's one of the, if not the hardest job in the world, because there's so many emotions that come with caregiving. You're thinking about mom and dad, their position, and then internally, a lot of people don't talk about this. They're thinking about their own mortality, right? You're changing mom's diaper, and in a few years that's going to be you. It's that circle of life. So I mean, it just wreaks havoc. So the most important I would advocate for is just self-care, mental health breaks, and if things are really, really bad, just talking to either a grief counselor or a mental health professional to help you get through this. So because at the end of the day, we have to make sure that they don't feel so alone, because the mortality rate is so much higher for the family caregiver over a person that is not a family caregiver.
Trying to look that up too, and it was it's specifically for long-term dementia caregiving. So if we want to get really specific about the data we're pulling, but I'm sure that this could apply across the board to other situations as well too. But it was nearly 1 in 5 spouse caregivers died before the person they were caring for, which how dementia caregiving situations, how they can change rapidly, or falls, like you said, can really impact that as well too. So I think, again, that's what blows my mind about even just going back to that nursing home stat, is it's the emotional side. It's that emotional labor that really just puts a toll on you. And so I think even just admitting that is a whole step, right? Like we talk about that in the grief cycle, is, getting to that acceptance stage. So if somebody is still in that stage of not even knowing what's going on, I think that's something to acknowledge, is just learning to recognize and name your feelings, because that can be a difficult skill to acquire no matter what stage of life you're in, right?
Yeah.
And working towards getting that help, and whether that is a therapist that maybe you go and see that, whether it's a friend, maybe you need to sit down with your sibling and say, look, this is getting hard. I know you live across the country, but let's talk about it. You can at least be here for me emotionally if you can't be here physically or financially, right?
Yeah, the sibling one is tough because I've seen situations. I had a situation in Seattle taking care of a family, 5 kids, and during COVID, both of the parents were in assisted living and they could not come to an agreement. And the beginning of COVID, the mom and dad were okay to sign paperwork, but they had fought for so long. By the time that they all came to an agreement, both mom and dad were unable to make any legal decisions, which puts everything on the back burner. So now how do we pay for this? How do we sell the house? They didn't have a power of attorney. There's just so many things. Like, it's like you got to have your ducks in a row, you know, and find a support group. And if it's not going to be your siblings, because again, if you're fighting with your brother and your sister over the care of mom, but you still need support because you're the main care provider, you need your own network. You got to step outside, and it's not to be nasty or to be combative with your family, but it's for your own.
People one on their side, I guess, is the way I would almost sum it up too, right? Like, you need somebody that's going to advocate for you as much as you're advocating for that person.
Absolutely. And again, caregiving is one of the most selfless acts anyone could possibly ever do. And I don't think that these people give themselves enough credit. There's a lot of self-doubt. They don't think that they're doing, because again, for a lot of people, we go back to that scenario I talked about. Monday, everything was okay. Wednesday, everything is horrible. This is the first time you're doing it. You have no sense of reference. And this is the first time you're physically dealing with somebody with dementia and you don't know what to do. And it's just great to find a network of people that have been there that will guide you. You know, the numbers just keep growing and they're growing, and more people are amongst us and they're just sharing. And it's so helpful.
Oh yeah, no, it's so good to see people, even just to see other people sharing their stories about caregiving on the internet, which I know is something you are frequent in your scrolling and looking to find people. And I would love to hear more specifically about what you shared before too, that you feel like your feed is very positive and you try to make sure that you keep it, well, I'm sure you get the sad stories as well too, because that's natural with caregiving, but you're very intentional about what you surround yourself with.
So again, garbage in, garbage out, right? My algorithm is so clean. It's literally old school hip hop, music, cooking videos, and senior care. Also, I mean, I get the bad stories too, because I'm looking for stories to share with other home care agencies, because I help with marketing with them as well on what not to do. So I do come across those bad stories, but for the most part, I'm seeing positive things. And again, if you are a caregiver and you're trying to get help, one of the things you can do is basically try to set your algorithm so it is more positive. Just if the moment you, and especially if you're using TikTok has mastered the algorithm. So if a certain thing continually comes up in your search, it's because you've been watching it for too long. The moment that you see something that you do not think is good for you, get off of it. Just get off of it for your own mental health, and be amongst all of the positivity. Like, I'll do it in real time one time. I'll show you my scroll. It's amazing. And it's a person that's ringing the bell for the first time after chemo treatment. It's a child that just got his first prosthetic leg, or they're turning on their cochlear implant. And it's like that kind of stuff. It will uplift you. But more importantly, like, I got a gentleman. I did a story about him. His name's Brian. He's a newscaster from Southern California. He was a caregiver to his mom and his dad, who has dementia, and his sister, who has dementia. But the key thing of this story was he's in a wheelchair and he has multiple sclerosis, and he's still a family caregiver. And I wrote a story about him and I put it out everywhere. And the reason that I did that was because, honestly, he's so awesome, you know. And I wanted to show that person, an able-bodied person that it just started their caregiving journey. Like, if this dude in a wheelchair with multiple sclerosis is taking care of 3 people with dementia, you can do it too. You can do it too. So there's positive stories out there. There's great examples of caregivers that are, I've got a woman who's a double amputee that's a full-time mom with a special needs child. Like, we all have it in us. We just have to keep looking at those positive stories and have a great network of people behind us, and then we can be the best family caregivers we possibly can be.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that is something that I have heard even from other caregivers is just how much negativity there is, and it is so easy to complain. And I'll have caregivers tell me I had to leave Facebook groups because it just turned into people complaining and everybody jumping on the complaining bandwagon, right? And I think there is a time and a space for letting your emotions out and for doing that. But I think it's very much you have to be careful about what you feed, right? And making
Mhm.
sure you said garbage in, garbage out. And so if you find that you're in a negative state, I had one caregiver tell me that her husband even said, you need to leave these groups because you've gotten so negative since you joined them. And that's not been good for you. So, really trying to focus on the positive. And something I try to do with the way we market the podcast and talk about the podcast is, sometimes people will respond more if we start the post off with a complaining kind of thing or like, don't you hate this thing about caregiving, right? But I always trying to end it on that positive note and try to
Flip it.
people to be happy because I also get that, I hear often caregivers are like, you just tell me to take a bubble bath. That doesn't do anything for me, right? And so I think, figuring out what works for you, but trying to find those people that are going to uplift you and fill your life with positivity. One thing that I love to ask people that I would love to hear your personal answer to, and then things that you have also seen work for other people is what forms of self-care work for you? 'Cause I think it's so personal. Somebody told me they love to drive out and just listen to rock music, right? Somebody else, they have to go to their weekly nail appointment and that's good for them. But I just want to really reiterate to people to find what works for you. So that's why I love asking.
Well, obviously, I have an amazing hair care regimen. Honestly, I got a couple. One is a twofer. And for all of your listeners out there, I'm a huge proponent of journaling.
Mhm.
Journaling, because it's actually the physical art of writing things down, which will also move those synapses. So if you're worried about Alzheimer's and dementia and working out that, I mean, people go to the gym and they do all these things, but they don't do simple puzzles and handwriting. And I will sit down and I will let loose the things of the day that bothered me, like close the book. I close the book. But I've also at the same time I've cognitively done something to help better my brain. And that's huge. Music is huge for me. I'm a huge audiophile. I think, again, going back to Alzheimer's and dementia, I can forget your name, Michaela, right? Give me a few weeks, like you can forget people's names, but like I can literally tell you a song I heard in 1992. You know what I'm saying? It's like your brain is just hardwired that way. And I always remember there was a great video of this gentleman who was in a, you can Google it, just put in YouTube, jazz, dementia.
Mhm.
This guy's just sitting in his chair, nobody talks to him. And one day a caregiver walks by him and she puts her iPod in, and all of a sudden you like literally see the lights turn on. And he's talking about the roaring 20s and being in Harlem and going to jazz clubs. And it's like the music did that. And I've seen it in real life, music and food triggering responses in people that were completely non-talkative. So that's really music is huge to me. I've listened to a ton of music.
Yeah, no, I find that music is very key for my life too. And it always reminds me, speaking to memory in particular, I'm a big rom-com buff. And, in the Notebook that they've got that depiction of her memories fading, but then when they turn on the music and they're dancing, then she remembers who he is for a moment, right? Now, I'm sure it's probably not quite that dramatic or specific for, most of these cases, but I do think that they found that there is a huge tie between memory and music, like you said. And so, I like that for you. You've mentioned to me before that keeping your memory is very important to you, right? And so I think
Absolutely.
if you're going through that stress, like you mentioned, of watching, especially for these things that we know are genetic or could be genetic, I guess we don't know enough about dementia and Alzheimer's and things. But if you think that it is going to run in your family and you're scared of that, trying to be proactive in doing things that are going to help you feel like you can take control over your life. Not that you can ever perfectly control life, but I know that anxiety is rooted in that lack of control, right? So those are
Absolutely.
things that you can do to counterbalance that, to emotionally feel like you have a little bit of semblance of control over things that you really can't, right?
Yeah. And that's huge. I think alleviating anxiety is half the battle. You know, like if you're stressed out or everything's making you anxious and you're not living in the moment, you're either thinking about the past or what potentially will happen in the future, not living for now, especially as a family caregiver. It's so unhealthy. So
Right.
unhealthy. Be grounded.
And I will say with anxiety in particular, because I have anxiety, so I have had to learn a lot about it. It's been very interesting to know that for me as a very anxious person, my threshold is already going to be, a small thing is gonna immediately spike my anxiety, right? Versus somebody else feels they can handle, their tolerance level is a lot better for anxiety, right? But what I've noticed for other people, like I have a sister that complete opposite of me. My dad tried to explain to her once what anxiety was, and she's like, so it's like that feeling I get before I start a race. And so it's kind of similar to that. And I was like, yeah, exactly. And she's like, but that feeling just goes away. Like,
Mm.
what do you mean you just feel that all the time? That makes no sense to me, because we constantly clashed over, I would tell her I was anxious about something. She's like, just get over it, right? But then when she went through kind of a life altering event in her personal life, then she came back to me and was like, I'm feeling anxious. I don't know how to handle this. So, for some people, maybe experiencing these feelings with a loved one might be the first time they're encountering having to work through. I mean, you're very fortunate if that is the first time in your life that you are
Yeah.
feeling that. But I know that mental health is different for people, and it will impact us all in different ways. And so I think having to get specific and knowing how your nervous system operates, knowing how your brain operates, and then trying to figure out ways to work through it. The main thing is just figuring out how to work through it, because I think it's easy to try one thing and give up, right? And feel like, oh, I did that. I still feel anxious, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There's so many different things you could do. You just got to find what works for you and then just work on that. Again, it's like what you said about, you just told me to take a bubble bath. That probably works for so many people, but it might be just something different for somebody else. But at the end of the day, you have to find that thing. But if you don't put the effort in, you'll never know, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, no, so many different angles and sides, and we could go on and on about all the different situations and things that you have seen help people. But I would love to hear from you. What is, kind of one or two of the moments that stick with you, from past experiences that, help you keep going and stay dedicated no matter how difficult caregiving work can be?
Wow.
I know it's hard to narrow it down to just,
No, I mean, I think it's coming across some amazing caregivers. I mean, my brain just went.
yeah,
I have some amazing caregivers over the years that I've had the true pleasure of interacting with. I've traveled across the country and I've been in hundreds of different home care agencies and seen what they do firsthand. And there's a couple of ones that really stick out to me. And one is a woman. I went to do a drop in. I just do, quality assurance check on the caregiver. And the client said some horrendous things to the caregiver. I mean, very racist, very derogatory, very combative. And I was so taken back. And she's like, Mr. Kevin, I have known this gentleman for 7 years and his dementia had progressed. And she goes, that's not him. And
mm,
I got emotional because I was like, man, if someone said that about me, we'd be like knuckling up.
yeah,
And
yeah,
she was like, and I went and I sat in the car and I go, what a wonderful human being. Like,
yeah,
you're not making surgeon money, you're not making nursing money. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul, basically, and struggling. This is your life calling. And this woman was just the epitome of what a caregiver should be, because I mean, I've seen caregivers that get hit physically. I've seen caregivers that have been touched inappropriately during a bathing time, and it's not that the person has any idea of what they're doing. They're truly cognitively gone, but that caregiver doesn't give up on them. And to me, it's like I'm in awe. I'm literally. It's one of the reasons that I started telling the stories of caregivers. I've had the honor of giving away the Caregiver of the Year award nationally at the Home Care Association of America, like on a stage with thousands of people, giving the award away to a caregiver. And that's the kind of stuff that makes me want to be in this business, because again, like if you're talking about the healthcare realm, which they are absolutely in, right? At the far end, you have a neurosurgeon, the most schooling, the most, anytime you open someone's skull, like you have to have mad skills. And then all the way at the other end of that spectrum is a caregiver, because they don't have the college degree, they don't have the hours. They have hours, but not the textbook hours. They don't have that diploma. But they're all in the same business, and they just don't get the adulation that they deserve. They don't. They don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really like that's my passion. Like I want to make sure, because we need them. We
Oh, yeah.
absolutely we need them. Every family needs them. And for the family caregiver, the person that's doing this unpaid, I mean, no pay, no adulation, no one patting you on the back. We have to uplift them. And again, that's what keeps me here. That's honestly why I'm here.
And I know we didn't touch as much on this side of things, and I'm sure this is a very deep question that I'm asking you that you could probably go on for another time. Maybe we have a part 2. But I would love to even hear at a high level for those paid caregivers and things that you're seeing in home care. What kind of things do you think we should be doing or calling for, advocating for to support them better? You know, I've seen some states in South Carolina, for example, they said that there's a shortage of home care workers in every single county. I'm sure that's nationwide. Nationwide, but there was one of our state senators trying to push to get higher pay in place because the rate at which the initial payment, like that has always gone up, but the worker pay has not increased inflation across the board.
I wrote a book on it. I literally wrote a book on it.
Yeah, I'd love to.
So the first thing that I would tell any home care agency has to start at the top down. You have to charge more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, any family that picks up a phone looking for home care, no one's saying, like, if they're looking for the cheapest care, you already know that's going to be a problematic client. You have to charge a premium so that your care providers can be paid appropriately. We just came over this snowstorm. I can guarantee you that there are caregivers out there that never went home for 3 or 4 days. Literally did not go home for 3 or 4 days. And some home care agents will be like, well, you didn't have to be there 24 hours. I couldn't leave.
Right.
You have to pay them. You have to pay them. It's huge. If you want to have better care, it all comes down really in home care to like your Google reviews, because if people are looking for a care provider, or if you want a referral from a home care, from a discharge planner or social worker or your local hospital, you've got to have great Google reviews. They have to know that they can depend on you, right? That your caregivers are going to show up. And if you've got crappy caregivers, you're going to have horrible reviews and you're not going to do good business. But you can charge higher amounts of money and pay your caregivers a living wage, 25 and up, because it's worth it. They're worth it, and that's the way you'll keep them. And if you keep a good caregiver, it's because of the caregiver shortage. And I try to tell every home care agency this: if you've got a caregiver, Mary Sue, and you don't give her hours, or you go, well, I just don't like her. You don't train her up right. You don't treat her right. You don't pay her right. She will literally have a job that day. That's how big the caregiver shortage is. So they're going to go. So charge more, pay more, get better clients. You will get better clients. I mean, it's pretty much, it's that simple. It's that initial bite that's going to hurt you as a business owner because you've got to lay out some money. But in the long term, you'll be making bank. Because again, it is a multi-billion-dollar agency you can have a piece of. But if you have horrible caregivers, a horrible reputation, and your phone's not going to ring. Your phone's not. It's probably the hardest and simplest business that you can possibly ever go into. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but literally it's hard because it's a hard business. But so many people need it. If you do it right, you're going to do great.
Absolutely.
I've got friends that literally run multi-million-dollar a year agencies because that's what they do. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally, because they pay their caregivers right. They don't have the caregiver turnover. And when you don't have that, because again, if you've got a great caregiver, but you don't treat them right and they leave, I guarantee you that client, even though they sign an NDA or they're like, we're not going to, they will literally privately hire that caregiver.
I know it happens all the time because it's that relationship. And when you're in a relationship-based business, that's what's invaluable. And so that's what you're really paying for when you're paying the fair rate of what your caregiver should be paid, is that relationship management, because that's what helps people stay dedicated to you and to your service above anything else. Because it's people. That's all that really matters.
And one caveat to this, and I'm sorry, I would go off on a tangent on this because I'm super passionate about how we treat our caregivers. I remember watching a video of a caregiver crying in her car. Her patient just died that day, and they put her on a job later that evening. Can't do that. If you have a caregiver that's with a client for a couple months, day in and day out, cleaning them and bathing them, and they are truly great caregivers with empathy, you know that they're attached to that person. And when that client passes away, you make sure that that caregiver has off a few days. Let them get their bearings straight. Pay them. Let them. They will be so thankful that you didn't throw them away like garbage. They will never leave your agency. And you make sure that care. Do you know I have been to so many? I can't even tell you how many funerals I've been to.
Yeah.
And to look in the back and always see that caregiver sitting in the pew, and that family's like, no, you sit with us. And that's when you know you did the right job. Like you hired the right caregiver. They're like, we want Sally sitting with the family. She is family, you know?
Tell you, my dad is a nurse practitioner and works in senior care, and there was one woman that he took care of that, in his words, feels like she waited to die until he came that morning to check in on her one last time. And he absolutely went to her funeral and was very upset by, what happened. But it's just those kind of moments that are so touching to be able to see the relationships that can come about from these situations, that they become like family, and to really watch out for people. One last thing, and I don't know if you had a hard stop, but I'm trying to be careful of our time and stuff at the hour.
Oh, no.
But
I will talk as long as you have me, Michaela. I love
well,
what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Another topic I wanted to ask you about as well too is, I know we were getting into a little bit of this with our group, is in particular about, men that are getting into caregiving and things that you have seen, or how we can encourage more men, because I can tell you a large majority of our meetings right now, we're lucky if we have one or two guys show up. And I would absolutely love for men to be a part of this conversation, because I know it affects them as well too, so yeah, just any insights you can kind of give on that topic.
Well, I think I told the group this story. I was speaking in Atlanta, and I was out to lunch with a whole bunch of home care agency owners. And in my peripheral vision, I saw Danny Trejo. And Danny Trejo is a Machete. He's from Breaking Bad. He's a famous Mexican actor. And everybody was so excited. They're like, oh my God. And, and I just went over and I talked to him. And because again, I'm a home care nerd, I knew that he was a male family caregiver. He actually worked with the AARP and did a whole promotional about the manly caregiver. And I think that has to be, we need more of that. There are so many men that are quietly doing it. I don't know if it's a machismo thing where they feel like you can't say that I'm a nurse for mom or dad. But I think that we need to be more vocal about it and support the men that are doing it. Again, men have higher mortality rate than women. Now imagine like you're the main breadwinner, and on top of that, you're the family care provider coming home.
Right.
Taking care of a loved one, and you're burning the candle at both ends. And I feel like more men should speak out about that for their own mental health, and have a whole group of men that get together and chat about what's going on in their lives. Because again, so many men don't get recognized for being in this industry. I mean, just think about it. People make fun of male nurses.
Oh,
why
yeah.
would you make fun of a male nurse? They're a nurse. They're awesome.
I want more of them, because there's plenty of things that I'm sure guys would feel more comfortable having a guy nurse help them out with, tests and things, or breathing or whatnot, right?
Absolutely. And I for transfers, for a sponge bath for some men, we need more men in this industry, because I just feel like they feel more comfortable. And again, I just feel like they just need support to come out as family caregivers, and we just all need to support them,
Yes,
Yep.
no, absolutely. I think it's interesting to talk about. People like to point out that a lot of the lower paid jobs, teachers, nurses, home care workers, tend to be female oriented, and, not going to get off into the, talking about that topic. But then it's interesting how, on the flip side, the problem that it still creates is, if it's a feminine job, you give men a hard time with it too. And I think that shouldn't be the thing, right? Like, I think it's so admirable for anyone that wants to go into healthcare field. and that actively chooses it, because there is just so much work that needs to be done. And I think the main thing, again, if I could reiterate this point as well too, is that people need to see themselves in these industries, whether it's seeing another man that is a caregiver, whether it's, people of color that need to also see people that look like them in the media. That's why these caregiver stories are so important as well too, because people need to see that there's people like them, because that's how we build these connections, and that's how we build the encouragement to show that they're not the only ones going through what they're going through.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of that. I've always been, like you said, people of color make up the vast majority of the caregiving realm, but you wouldn't be able to know that from a lot of the advertising, which I've always pushed back on. I've worked at the franchise level, and I was very vocal about that. I'm like, wait a minute, our entire staff is from West Africa. What are we doing? You know what I mean? Like that's we don't have any Swedish ladies here. So
And it's ridiculous
make
through, when I try to do, because my other work is in marketing for medical things, and I'm trying to make something on Canva, and you scroll through and you're looking for healthcare workers, and it's just white people taking care of white people. And I'm like, this this needs to be fixed, which I will say, I don't know if you stumbled across this group, and I need to find them. If anybody's interested in this, you can reach out and I can maybe find it and direct you towards them. But there is a nonprofit group that has specifically worked on trying to create more diverse photos, especially of aging people in general, because aging people are also not present in common media things as well. But they have specifically made this free library of photos that anybody's welcome to use, and they've tried to diversify, multiple ways.
absolutely send me that link. I'd love to see it because I use a couple different art programs, but I would love to, use any of those images.
Yeah.
We have to be representative of what it is that goes out into our community and give these people their flowers, because I feel like, again, whether it's people of color or men or any nationality, when they see their own kind doing these things, maybe they're more apt to do it. And again, going back to, at some point, you're either going to need one or be one. And we just need to make sure that these people feel, I don't know if you can hear my dogs here, sorry, if making them feel like they're welcome. We welcome them with open arms.
Absolutely. No, I love all of that. And I think it's amazing how, and I don't know if you've seen this, but the people that go in, day out, and then there's almost a divide sometimes when something gets like corporatized or, gets to the private sector, and seeing that divide between like the marketing team and then the people doing it day in and day out has been really interesting to kind of see that divide. And so it always makes me happy to see people that are passionate about, we got to connect the dots here, because that's how people will find you in the first place, right? So, well, I have definitely learned so much from our conversation today and have loved being able to hear about your experiences and your stories. So, how can people get in touch with you? Maybe they have a story that they want to share and be able to, get the word out on multiple ways as well, too.
Well, just please go to ehnDME.com, or you can find me on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. If you are a caregiver, or you're a family caregiver, or you're a medical professional, or anyone in the senior care industry, this is my thought process. You know that you're awesome. You absolutely know that you're a rock star, but it's really weird for you to write about yourself. So let me do it. Bring me your story, because it's coming from a third party, and I'm able to put into words how awesome you are, because it doesn't look as weird as like, here's a story about me. It's me writing a story about you. Let me do it, because I'm passionate about it, and I want to get to know you. I want to get to know all of the family caregivers out there. Share their stories, because I'm telling you, there is somebody that is going to open up that story, and it's going to resonate with them. There's going to be one story. You're going to go through those stories. Not everyone might be a fit for you, but there's going to be someone that's very similar to you, that has a similar background, and you can see them. I always write it from the version of showing their struggle all the way to how they're thriving today. People that have had the world thrown at them, and now they're running marathons and cleaning their homes and working out and eating right, and they're still a caregiver. So if you're depressed and you feel down and dark, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and there are people out there like Michaela and our group that are here to support you. So please reach out to me, just drop a line, and I'd love to write a story for you. Also, on a business note, my big thing is medical equipment. So if you're a family caregiver and you don't know what items to get, I've seen it all, and I'm a dealer. So if you have any questions on whether it be a low air loss mattress, if you've got wound care, to incontinence items, I carry it all, and I will walk you through what's going to make home care easier for you as the family care provider and for mom and dad. That's my passion. So please reach out to me anytime.
Well, I will link all of this information in the show notes, and we'll make sure that we cross promote on our platform so you can talk to Kevin. You should obviously just, if you have any questions, reach out to either one of us. And like we said, we know a lot of people that are in the space, and if we don't know the answer, we probably know somebody who at least knows someone who knows the answer.
I always tell people that I don't know everything, but I am a great conduit. Like I know a guy. I know a guy. So like I will be able to connect you.
Yes, because that's the last thing we want. The last thing we want anybody to feel is that there's, to feel overwhelmed about all the things they have to navigate. So just know that there's so many people that are on your side that want to help support you. And so I absolutely appreciate you sharing everything today, Kevin, and for everything you do to help other people, because I know you're putting action behind your words and jumping in to, really advocate for people. And so I appreciate that.
I
Even
appreciate you. And what you're doing here with this podcast is so important. It really is. For someone of your age to be this wise and to be offering this to other people shows that your parents did really good things. And your pop as a nurse practitioner is probably super proud of you, and they should be, because like what you're doing is you're giving a voice to the voiceless. And that's so admirable. And if there's anything I can do to help with this, just let me know. I will volunteer away anytime.
If something Kevin shared resonated with you, I'll link his resources in the show notes, especially the free checklist he mentioned for families navigating home care. And if you're in a season where burnout feels heavy, please reach out to a friend, to a therapist, to a sibling, to someone in this community. You deserve someone advocating for you the way you advocate for everyone else. If this episode encouraged you, share it with another caregiver who might need it. And if you haven't already, follow or subscribe so you don't miss future conversations like this. We'll talk soon.